So after a quick router bit change, I've installed a 3/16 beading bit. Now this is not a roundover. A roundover will obviously round the sides over, but a beading bit leaves a slight line on the top as well as the side edge. It's a matter of preference, but that's the bit that I chose. Now, there shouldn't really be a top or a bottom. It should be the same design, but you know, just look it over and you might see something that you don't particularly like. Of course, put that on the bottom. So what's important to keep in mind though is that you are working upside down with this style of bit because you're in a router table. So take whatever side that you prefer, put it face down, and round over the top of your board. So we're left with a nice little profile here. And one thing I should have mentioned earlier, anytime I run a profile on something, no matter what project it is where I'm using a router bit like this, I always do it in 2 passes, and not necessarily because it's removing a lot of material. It's that I will make one pass and raise it about a 30-second, just the tiniest little amount, and go back and make a very light cleaning pass here, just to clean up everything, make sure we're left with very crisp lines. So that's what I've done. I've raised it up and I'm ready to make a second pass. Well, after yet another router bit change, I am now working on the finger holes on the side, and of course this will just give us something to pick it up with. And what I've done is I've switched to what's known as a paneling bit. And a paneling bit, the bottom wing here sticks out much further than the top vertical wing. And that's good for this sort of thing. It allows your finger hole to be much deeper and not round over so much. The problem, of course, is again, we're dealing with endgrain. I'm not going to lie to you, there is a lot of burning involved, but of course it's on the endgrain part, not so much on the side profile. Either way, there's going to be a lot of sanding to get done after this, and we'll just do it all at once at the end. But I really like the profile, and I'm not sure if you can really see the side, but it kind of gives it an OG side profile as well, so it looks good from the side. So basically I'm going to flip it around and do the other side, and with a bit of this size, make sure you do it in several passes. Again, end grain is very tough stuff, and we're using very hard wood anyway. So I actually did this in about 3 passes, so I'm going to lower the bit back down and start over on the other side. Now as far as the hand grips go, I wanted mine centered. I didn't want to just run the piece the entire width. I don't think that's very pleasing. So what I'm doing is I'm allowing the pattern to essentially be my guide. And looking at this line of Purple Heart, I want it to end on this piece right here, right at the seam between the maple and the Purple Heart. Now coming from the other side of center, I don't have a piece here to reference that from because it's a staggered pattern. So what I've done is along this line, I've just held a straight edge, continued my line, and then continued it straight down at 90 degrees. So if I stop on this line and stop on this line, my handle will be centered and it will be the exact same on this side. we're down to our last router bit setup. I'm actually still using the same paneling bit, but what I've done is I've lowered it almost the entire way. And all I want to do is use the very top curve here, and that's just to round over the bottom. Now, I have the router unplugged, so what I'm going to show you here is as I come around this corner and we get to our hand hole here, I'm just going to let it run off and basically just stop. It's got enough clearance, it's below the surface enough to where it's not going to contact the other edge and jerk around. Now, when I come to the next edge, being that it is so low, what's going to happen is the bearing will contact the wood first. And again, I've got the router unplugged. So as you can see, I'm now touching with the bearing, just like we discussed about using the template oversize, so that I'm contacting the bearing first before the blade is. So I will just connect with the bearing and then continue my rounding over all the way around, repeating that process on the other side. So with that final pass, the machining part of this is done. And all I wanted to do was very, very slightly round over the bottom edge here. And that's basically just an aesthetic choice. When you have a square edge and the cutting board is sitting on a flat surface, it looks very static. It looks like it's just glued down to that surface. By breaking that edge, it draws the cutting board up. It makes it look like, you know, it makes it look a little bit taller, but it also just makes it look more organic, like it's alive. So I think by breaking that edge, we've accomplished that. So now we're ready to start sanding. And I'm gonna start with about an 80 grit and sand as much as it takes. Switch to 100 and probably work my way all the way up to 320. As far as the handles go, again, a lot of burning marks, and we'll just have to do whatever it takes to get rid of that, whether it be a Dremel or, you know, maybe even just sandpaper wrapped around whatever we can find that's going to contour to that shape. But don't get in a rush about it. I mean, we've already spent a lot of time, and sanding, unfortunately, is just a necessary evil. So we're going to sand both sides, sand the handles, make sure you get the edges as well, make sure everything is silky smooth, and then we'll come back and start discussing some finishes.